Hey, everybody, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. I'm here with managing editor Sam Stein. We're going to have Joe Perticone, our man on Capitol Hill, joining us shortly. Is the blizzard in D.C.
We think there's a blizzard. Stop snowing, no, but there was a blizzard in D.C.
Yeah, he's got a bad Uber driver, I guess. But, everybody's doing the best they can out there. It's the holidays. All right, here's the news. Mike Johnson was sweating it out today. Yeah. Mike Johnson was sweating it out. He's pulling at the collar. He looked a little hot. And in the initial vote, there were 3 Republicans that voted for other candidates. It was Tom Massey of Kentucky.
Massey.
Tom Emmer.
Keith Self of Texas.
Self.
Who was the third one?
Ralph Norman.
Ralph Norman of South Carolina. That's right.
Norman.
Interesting character, Ralph Norman. He was an insurrectionist who then supported Nikki Haley and is now too conservative for Mike Johnson. He's kind of hard to pin down. So the 3 of them, then there were another 6 who kind of hung around. We talked about that group a little bit with Jonathan Martin in that other video about how they were like, well, let's kind of see where the wind's blowing here. And so that 9 is going to be important, and I want to get to that with Sam in a minute. But what is your top impressions here, Sam? Johnson, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
that
don't bury the lead. He won.
Johnson then ends up winning. The 3, he flips the 2, and I guess it wasn't the second vote. Technically, I think I would call it the second round.
Second round.
Parliamentarians might call it the first round, but there was a round, and this is kind of like there was a round. 3 people voted against him, and then they went back to them and they changed their vote. So you can all call that what you want. But it's an L for me in the first round. We can bring in some nerds on the Hill to disagree. But Sam, what's your top?
I'm curious if Perticone would categorize that as an L.
Okay.
So yeah, he wins. Ultimately, that's the news. Like, he's speaker. It happened on the first ballot, even with that sweaty hiccup.
Very sweaty.
Honestly, I feel like it was a good day for the guy. It could have gone really haywire, and he didn't. And now there are some real warning signs. Like this, I would absolutely not like to be running this caucus.
I should just say, like, Hakeem Jeffries didn't have 3 no's and 6 abstentions.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi didn't. John Boehner didn't. Dennis Hastert didn't. He did have multiple people that he did.
The context is totally unique because we're not used to this thing being dramatic. It's usually pro forma. It's like, oh yeah, this is the person we want to be our leader. We're going to vote this person to be speaker. We're obviously better off not having bad drama and a face plant, so let's just do it. Johnson didn't get to avoid that, but he also avoided the fate that Kevin McCarthy had, which was 15 ballots. But look, this is where it's like, if you're Johnson, like, enjoy the moment, because it's just going to get horrible. This is this narrow margin in which 2 people can basically derail anything. In 3 months' time, they got to fund the government. They got to lift the debt ceiling. They're going to try to pass a very aggressive and ambitious border immigration bill. They're going to try to extend the Trump 2017 tax cuts. Like, you got no margin for error, none. And if you're Johnson, like, sweating this one out, this was the easy one. The next stuff gets harder. And sure, like, you get to live another day, but boy, it's going to be a really difficult year for him.
Yeah, and the extent that it's a win is that he doesn't sacrifice anything, really. Right. There was some discussion, for example, Chip Roy, who is Ted Cruz's former chief of staff, kind of firebrand, a budget hawk, wanted to be in charge of rules in exchange for his vote.
And that would have let Chip Roy determine what bill came on the floor. It's basically handing Chip Roy kind of quasi-speakership responsibility.
Yeah, it would have been like Shadow Speaker Chip Roy and Shadow President Elon Musk would have been negotiating while Mike Johnson and Donald Trump went to MMA fights, I guess. But it would have been that situation. So he avoids
Mike snapping the selfie from the side as Trump's sitting next to him.
He avoids that. He avoids the Kevin McCarthy rule, where only one member of the House could call for his defenestration.
That was a dumb move by Kevin. How did he not see that one backfiring?
That was Chekhov's gun of the Kevin McCarthy speakership, allowing that.
Sure,
that
Matt Gaetz, you can just ask me what you want. Yeah, I'll do it.
So the new rule now is it'll take 9. But that is relevant to this, right? Because we had 3 plus 6 here.
I have to think that this. I am not this isn't me being a drone conspiracist. I'm not. But I do think there's something to the 9. I don't think this is coincidental. I think the fact that those 6 members sat back, didn't show their hands, and then the 3 members did vote against Johnson was a signal to Johnson, being like, "Look, there's 9 right here. That if you leave the reservation, we will engineer your ouster." I don't think that was coincidental in the slightest. I think they wanted to let him know that his leash is short and that they'll give him a little bit of space now, but it's always going to hang over him. I'm mixing metaphors here.
What happened to the drones? Are they gone now?
I think they're gone. I heard some crazy drone conspiracies. I don't want to relive it because they were so wild. Okay. But the drones are just gone. I guess we moved on to other things.
We've moved on. Yeah. I don't know. That feels like.
Well, what did Capucci tell me? The Capital Weather guy. He's we'll stop talking about drones the first night we have a cloudy sky. And lo and behold, we had a couple of cloudy skies.
Yeah, or replace that with multiple terror attacks and speakers votes. Then there's other things to talk about than imaginary drones. It's like the August shark attack for a while. Remember back when the news was boring.
In those cases, there were sharks.
That's a good point. So
it wasn't people mistaking Venus for a shark.
Okay, I'm sorry. Back to business. Sure. All right. So we had what essentially happens here is Johnson gets to move forward, but to me the news is that he wins. Sure, but the news really is just how he is on thin ice throughout this whole year. And Joe Perticone is on.
Hey, it's Joe Perticone.
Sorry,
it's the Joe Perticone.
All right. So Joe Perticone is on, and he's drinking. He's still looking good despite being out of a blizzard. Joe, we've been breaking it down. The main dispute that we've had so far is I was reporting that Mike Johnson lost the first round. Now, Sam is saying technically speaking, he got it on the first round, but he had Hakeem Jeffries had more votes in the first vote, so people did change their mind. So, how would you wager that?
Be honest about this.
When they leave the vote open like that, and this is one of the worst examples, it's like a gross display of abusing the regular order, but they're allowed to do whatever they want. They make the rules. So yes, he had it lost, but Johnson actually did everyone a favor by solving this without closing the vote, because they would have had to do that whole thing again.
Joe, just after answer the question. Joe, stop evading.
I know.
Was it a loss? Did he lose on round one, or did he win on round one?
I'm adding context.
Okay.
He technically did win on round one.
Yes!
But on a actual reading of it, if you want to take anything away from it, he lost. And I think though he emerged victorious because the holdouts looked really weak.
This is like the Texas Arizona State game. It's like Arizona State had it won.
Yeah.
There was going to be a targeting. They went to the review booth. They talked it out. People called down to the review booth. They're like, we really kind of want Texas to win this for ratings. Anyway, okay, fine. Technically, he wins on the first round, but it was ugly.
The other thing we're talking about is Johnson. Good day, bad day, medium day. What do you think?
I think it was bad because
bad.
Yes,
no.
Because first of all, it made him look very weak because he was doing this on his own. He was like, I'm not doing deals. Trump was just saying, oh, good luck to Mike. But what we saw actually throughout the day was that Trump was very much involved. Trump was calling these people. Susie Wiles was calling Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trump's aide, Hogan Gidley, was wandering around the floor, making all the conversations that need to be made. Michael Whatley was up in the visitors gallery, making sure everything was going fine. If you didn't
Michael Whatley's the RNC chair.
If you didn't think that Trump wasn't involved, it'd be easy to think that. But when you look at all the components of it, it's now clear that he had to call daddy for help.
Yeah, Nancy Mace literally was calling him and handed the phone to Ralph Norman, apparently. Somebody was reporting Ralph was one of the 3 holdouts.
So Nancy Mace has Trump on speed dial, called him up and said, apparently, hey, talk to Ralph?
Apparently. The other question I have for you, Joe, is just like, okay, good, whatever. I mean, that's like kind of pundit talk, who's up, who's down.
Dude,
as a practical,
you're a pundit.
Yeah, I know, but we're trying to give people practical, useful information here. It's kind of like, who cares whether we think it was good or bad? Practical, useful information is this does show that he's going to really struggle to manage these guys. I mean, he squeaks by on a vote about nothing, really, on a vote just about him. As soon as there starts to be legislation where there's actual substance here, I think this showed it's going to be really challenging for him. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. His fights on funding the government are going to be near impossible. A thing that I don't know if a lot of people noticed was that initially there were 9 people against him. 6 of them were like, "Oh, we're not voting until the end," and they ended up voting.
We talked about this. If you were on time, you would have heard that.
Blame the blizzard.
Blame your Uber driver.
But anyway, go ahead.
Right,
what's the significance to the 9?
9 is the new threshold for a motion to vacate. And so that's them putting him on notice. And then there's the wild cards weren't even playing around. Nancy Mace was well behaved. Victoria Spartz was well behaved.
That's what I'm curious about.
Boebert.
Why did they get in line? I mean, usually you would make the Occam's razor argument that they're wild cards, they love the attention, they love the drama, and beyond that they could kind of get something out of it if they negotiate. Why did they not do more to hold out?
Maybe this isn't their fight. Maybe the next fight is more important. The big fight's going to be the reauthorization of the Trump tax cuts. That's going to be where everyone really starts knifing each other and trying to be the disruptor of everything, because there's a lot riding on that politically.
Yeah, the Boebert was a nomination of Johnson, saying she's voting for Johnson, but hopes he does a good job. I think is very telling about the drama, because she was not ready to not give away any drama queen opportunity there, despite going with Johnson. I'm curious, Joe, is there any other what's the gossip, the whispering? What are people? Was it feeling like people that were Republican conference? It's all right, guys, we got to come together and work this out, or was it I fucking hate these other people and the fight is just beginning? What was your sense?
My read of it was based on if you look at Chip Roy, he issued a statement afterwards being we wanted the speaker to have committed to these things. It was all conditional. Keith Self saying oh, we're going to have a seat at the table on the agenda.
They got nothing.
Nothing. And so
nothing.
What this signaled is that, if they're going to do anything rebellious, it has to be something that Trump wants, because Trump wanted Mike Johnson through and had to, at least his, the people around him and him later at the end of the day had to tighten the screws on these people. And so...
in some ways you're saying that if Trump really, this is not Donald Trump's, but if Trump got his shit together and was hey, we should do this, that, and the other thing, you think these guys are all going to get in line?
Yeah, he can make them do anything.
No, bullshit. They had that fight 3 weeks ago where he wanted them to eliminate the debt limit. They said no. 38 of them said no.
It's a lot different. Everything. It's a lot different when he's president, and I think that for all the ways he screwed things up last time, he's going to be a lot more powerful this time. Especially,
well, I don't doubt that, but I think there are some limits. I think the government funding deal is going to be a disaster when it comes up in 3 months. I think lifting the debt limit is going to be a disaster when it comes up. I think the Trump tax cuts are going to be really difficult. They might do it because they all love tax cuts. But yeah, I think it's not, when you have a 2-vote majority, you just can't really. There's just no margin for error. Trump may have the biggest, stick and carrot in the game, but it's just, you're not going to get everybody every time.
All right. I want to close. There was a really touching moment on the House floor today. Our new competitor in the podcasting space, Matt Gaetz, is over at OAN now. And good luck to him. You should subscribe to this feed, because I saw Matt and I let him know that I do consider him to be a direct competitor now, that he has decided not to be the Attorney General, instead become a podcast host. There was a moment on the House floor where they acknowledged that Matt was not going to be joining the next Congress, and I want to play that for you guys.
The clerk is in receipt of a letter from the Honorable Matt Gaetz of the state of Florida, indicating that he will not serve in the House in the 119th Congress.
Joe, they didn't seem too upset to be missing old Matt's departure. Big round of applause for Matt not being around.
That was one of the like funnier moments inside the chamber. It was like I haven't seen members laugh like that in a long time. It was good.
Well, Matt, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I don't think he's gonna be missed by his pals there. But maybe he'll be more popular at LAN. We'll see. Sam, do you have any final contrarian thoughts on this day?
No, I'm not a contrarian. I think I'm just telling it like it is. I think
just
it was a decent day for Speaker Johnson.
Decent. We've downgraded you to decent. We've downgraded you to decent. A sweaty day for Mike Johnson. A
sweaty, decent day. Yeah.
I think we can agree with that. All right, everybody. We'll be back here over the weekend and next week. Everything's getting started. Everything's getting going. So subscribe to the feed. Joe will be keeping you posted from the hill. I'm stuck in my room here. Sam will be out there. We'll be seeing y'all
somewhere.
soon.
Yeah.